This committee is a high-level committee that will provide strategic leadership and guidance to the AFI network on matters of gender and women's financial inclusion. I think the first discussion of gender within the network, specific discussion, happened at the 2014 Global Policy Forum, which was held in Trinidad. At that forum, there was a panel that discussed whether central banks had any role to deal with the issue of gender. And the response of that forum after the end of the discussion was that 78% of the participants in the session concluded that there was a role for central banks on issues of gender. The Denarau Accord, for me, provides a framework for AFI to work on the issue of gender and women's financial inclusion. It looks at various things that can be done to advance women's financial inclusion, as well as to bridge the gender gap, if not to totally eliminate it. The Denarau Accord has looked at how it can harness various partners and stakeholders, beginning with the AFI infrastructure itself. It was decided when the board made their decision that they'll create a high-level committee, but gender will be a cross-cutting issue in all the working groups of AFI. So, in fact, all the working groups are already working to draw out an implementation plan for how the Denarau Accord will be implemented. Well, for me, it's very, very exciting that AFI was able to take on this additional area of work. AFI is a very dynamic global institution, the leading organization in terms of financial inclusion. And its membership, it has a membership in excess of 80 institutions, from central banks to regulators. I believe that AFI taking on board the issue of gender and women's financial inclusion is a real game changer. It's going to very positively impact this issue, and the manner in which it's being approached through all the working groups, and also with the possibility of using the entire AFI platform, from members to partners to collaborators. I see that there will really be real impact on women's financial inclusion. And it is my hope that within 5 years, if not totally eradicated, the gender gap will have significantly diminished. In Zambia, generally, the financial inclusion levels are low for both men and women. But within that situation, you still find that more men have access to financial services than women, especially when you look at the formal level of inclusion. We did a study on women's access to finance in Zambia and found an unexpected finding, I would say. We actually found that women make greater use of financial services, but at the informal level. And of course, we are all aware that informal financial services have their own risks and are, in most cases, extremely expensive compared to when financial services are accessed in the formal sector. There are complaints about the affordability of the formal financial services, but if you go into the informal sector, you'll find that it's quite common to have interest in excess of 100% for whatever is borrowed. And then, of course, if you're going to deal with money lenders, sometimes there's issue of violence, if you're even a day late to repay and so on. So it is very important that we get as many women as possible into the formal financial sector, together with all the attendant benefits that brings. The gender gap itself in Zambia, when you look at the informal, the access to finance generally is about 59% when you look at both formal and informal. And the gender gap there is about 4%. But when you look at the formal sector, then the gender gap jumps to 9%. And the intention is that no one should be left behind, especially when you look at, what does it mean for women to have access to finance? We all know the role that women play, the very important role in formatting and guiding the next generation. We all know that, women who are empowered are much better able to transact within the society and to be economically emancipated. We also know that nations are foregoing a lot of resources by not harnessing the potential of women. So it's very, very important that we do bridge the gap, eliminate the gap of financial inclusion between men and women, even as we are getting everyone included